Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. Sikong Baichen asked, is it because of the heaven and earth shackle? The Sky Martial Court has researched the heaven and earth shackle for a long time, but they've yet to find an answer. The Sky Martial Court's intention to invade the Golden Lotus realm. Is it born out of selfishness, or are they trying to find a way to break the heaven and earth shackle? Zhou said with a blank expression. Humans are greedy. The Ninth Temple's ideals are different from the Sky Martial Court and the Flying Star House. Throughout these years, the Sky Marital Court and the Flying Star House are experiencing a meteoric rise. Moreover, they have the support of the palace. There's nothing the Ninth Temple could do about them, Sikong Baichen said with a sigh. In truth, the Ninth Temple had been working hard just to maintain itself. They did not have the leisure to think about the Sky Martial Court or the Flying Star House. At this moment, Sikong Baichen fisted his hand, and his avatar vanished from sight. He said without beating around the bush, if it's possible, the Ninth Temple wishes to work with you, Brother Liu. It was difficult to find someone who would willingly talk to him about birth charts since they were so important. Therefore, Sikong Baichen gave up on that thought. However, he did not think it would be too difficult to strike a deal and work together. The 5 first seats simultaneously turned to look at Zhou. Zhou's disciples shifted to him as well. Zhou's expression remained unchanged as he said, work together? I understand with your cultivation base, there's no need for you to work with anyone. However, your talented disciples are slightly weak. Moreover, Golden Lotus cultivators are foreign tribesmen, and as such, they would be treated as hostiles. If they remain here, the Ninth Temple can guarantee their safety, Sikong Baichen said. Little Yuan and Kong did not feel anything about Sikong Baichen calling them slightly weak. However, Zhenghai and Yuan'er were slightly displeased. Yuan'er said, I've always preferred to be alone. I've met countless strong enemies in the past, but I never needed anybody's help. Zhenghai chimed in as well, I'm the master of a sect with 100,000 members. Why would I need protection from someone else? At this moment, the meaning of Sikong Baichen's words finally dawned on little Yuan. She hurriedly said, Junior sister Kong and I will always follow master. At this moment, the mystery hall's first seat, Zhang Shaoqing, said, I heard from Zhu Xian that this friend is highly skilled with the sword. I'd like to have a sparring session with him. He looked at Yuan'er as he spoke. Zhou understood Zhang Shaoqing's intention. Zhang Shaoqing wanted to display the Ninth Temple's strength. In truth, the Ninth Temple was powerful enough with Sikong Baichen alone. However, one person was far from enough for the high-ranking members of the sect. A major sect's most important strength was its core. Yuan'er had been itching for some action, so he agreed readily, sure. Sikong Baichen made an inviting gesture. The young shouldn't overexert themselves when they're sparring. Brother Liu, do you want to watch? Zhou was slightly puzzled. Yuan'er was only an 8-leaf cultivator. How was he going to stand up against this early-stage 9-leaf cultivator? When Yuan'er was at the door of the Holy Palace, he bowed at Zhou and said, Don't worry, master. Upon seeing how calm and confident Yuan'er was, Zhou said, Very well. After a while, everyone gathered outside the Holy Palace. It was a very spacious spot in the building. At this moment, they seemed to have forgotten that Chen Beizheng had been killed here earlier. Yuan'er and Zhang Shaoqing were hovering in the air, a distance away from each other, as they cupped their fists together at each other. Zhang Shaoqing said, Since you're an 8-leaf cultivator, sir, I'll fight using strength at the 8-leaf stage. There's no need for that. You might lose even if you use your 9-leaf strength. Yuan'er was as confident as always. After you. After these words fell, both opponents drew their swords and moved with a flurry of movements. Their blades crossed when they met in the middle. Bam! There were no extravagant and ostentatious energy swords or techniques during their first collision. Both of their backs were turned toward each other at this moment. The insider knew the ropes while the outsider just came along for the ride. They're testing each other, Zhenghai commented. Sikong Baichen wondered out loud, you're skilled with the sword as well? I don't know much about the sword, but I'm skilled with the saber. The way I see it, the sword is for little men. It's not as majestic as the saber. Men should be more imposing, Zhenghai said. Zhou stroked his beard as he looked ahead and said, this disciple of mine has always been proud. You'll get used to it. Sikong Baichen merely felt that the young ones were filled with hot blood and did not think too much of it. However, he wondered what kind of disciples were they, to the extent that their master had gotten used to their behavior? Meanwhile, the two opponents turned around and struck again. There was a flash of light as golden energy and red energy collided. Zhou noticed that Yu Shangrong's longevity sword was no longer glowing red. Bam! 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 Several hundred energy swords collided as the two opponents retreated. That's the traceless sword, Zhenghai remarked. If I'm up against this technique of my junior brother, I'd push him back using thunderous saber blows with the force of the ocean. Little Yuan and Conk looked at Zhenghai strangely. Their expressions seemed to say, eldest senior brother, are you a spy sent by the enemy? I couldn't help myself. Zhenghai understood Yu Shangrong's sword techniques very well. If he claimed second place, nobody would dare to claim the first place. Sikong Baichen said, the sword consciousness is difficult to grasp. Indeed, it's a good idea to counter it with a tidal wave of energy sabers to catch. The four first seats were shocked that their temple master agreed with Zhenghai. Zhu Xian looked up with an incredulous expression on his face. He was surprised that Zhang Shengqing, a 9-leaf cultivator, had not won yet despite fighting against an 8-leaf cultivator. He could tell Yu Shangrong was much stronger than before. Zhang Shaoqing shared the same thoughts as Zhu Xian. A 9-leaf cultivator should be able to defeat an 8-leaf cultivator in a short time. If the battle dragged out for a long time, even if he won, it would not be a dignified victory. Hence, he said loudly, sir, be careful. The victor would be determined with the next strike. After Zhang Shaoqing finished speaking, he wielded his sword with both hands and rose high up into the sky. His primal chi turned to energy before a dazzling red energy sword more than 10 meters long appeared in his hand. At the same time, a red lotus appeared and bloomed under his feet. 9 inconspicuous leaves spun around it. It was clear he was no longer holding back. Yu Shangrong looked up. He did not move as he wielded his longevity sword in a reverse grip. He did not move. Meanwhile, Zhenghai looked at his second junior brother with a puzzled expression. He remembered their intense battle with Ma Luping in Yu province. After a moment, he said confidently, second junior brother has won. Although he did not know the specifics, based on the victorious expression on Yu Shangrong's face, he had no doubt about Yu Shangrong's victory. Sikong Baichen was a 10-leaf elite, and yet, he did not see anything that indicated Yu Shangrong's victory. How could a junior be so confident about the result? Are you sure, little friend? That's how second junior brother's sword path has always been. The path of the sword turns the impossible into something possible. It can turn the rotten into a legend, Zhenghai said. After a beat, as though he could not help himself, he added, naturally, it's still weaker than my saber. The first seats. Zhenghai's words were rather irritating. Zhou stroked his beard and placed one hand on his back as he said with a straight face, you'll get used to it. Sikong Baichen. Is he truly an elite who has activated his birth chart? Meanwhile, Zhang Shaoqing, who was hovering in the sky, was not affected by Zhenghai's words. In his opinion, Zhenghai's words were meant to affect him mentally. He wielded his swords with both hands and said, mysteries within mysteries, the gates of all wonders. You won't be able to dodge this. The energy sword descended. As the 9-leaf Zhang Shaoqing brought his sword down, Yu Shangrong felt danger locking onto him. If he was an 8-leaf cultivator, there was no doubt he would lose. He smiled as he loosened his right hand's grip. After the longevity sword flew out of his hand, he summoned his avatar. Whiz. An avatar without a golden lotus, with its palms facing the heavens, joined its palms together. Bam. It caught the energy sword between its palms. Yu Shangrong leaped out as his longevity sword flew back into his hand. His other golden leaves spun around him before shooting toward his opponent at lightning speed. No. Zhang Shaoqing's expression changed drastically as he forcibly withdrew his energy sword. He raised it up before himself to block Yu Shangrong's strike. In just a blink of an eye, Yu Shangrong was upon Zhang Shaoqing with his energy sword. You lose. The remaining 8 golden leaves shot past Zhang Shaoqing and returned to Yu Shangrong. The final golden leaf split into 2 before they disappeared. The battle was not as intense as everyone had imagined. The outcome was decided after just a few rounds. The energy swords that resembled lotus leaves shot past Zhang Shaoqing's body. If they had been half an inch closer, he would have been injured. He could hardly accept this outcome. He was annoyed that he, a 9-leaf cultivator, lost to an 8-leaf cultivator. Apart from that, he did not understand why his opponent lacked a golden lotus. Regardless, this was a great insult to him. If anyone else were in his shoes, they would not be able to accept this outcome as well. Therefore, he said gruffly in a booming voice, again. The longevity sword returned to its scabbard. Yu Shangrong smiled faintly. I'm not used to sparring. If this were an actual battle, you would have lost your life to my blade. Why is there a need for a rematch? I don't care. I want a rematch. Zhang Shaoqing's sword buzzed. Yu Shangrong ignored Zhang Shaoqing and returned to the others. Since the outcome was obvious, it would be boring and meaningless to continue sparring. Yu Shangrong's indifferent attitude naturally angered Zhang Shaoqing. In just a blink of an eye, thousands upon thousands of energy swords appeared around him, and he launched them at Yu Shangrong's back. Impudent. Sikong Beichen waved his arm. A gust of wind blew out, dispersing the energy swords and sending Zhang Shaoqing flying. Zhang Shaoqing flipped in the air a few times before he finally managed to stabilize his footing. At this moment, a frightened expression could be seen on his face. This move from his temple master was akin to being drenched by a bucket of cold water. He finally regained his senses. As a 9-leaf cultivator, how could he have made such a stupid mistake? He hastily said, "Forgive me, temple master. I. His face flushed as he struggled to find the words to explain his actions. The 5 first seats were not young. It was unbecoming that one of them would act like a child upon losing. It would not have been a big deal if Zhang Shaoqing had just gracefully admitted defeat. With his action, not only did he lose the battle, but he had lost his dignity as well. Saying that, regardless of their age, in front of Lu Zhou and Sikong Beichen, they were not different from youths. You're grounded for 1 month. Face the wall and reflect on your mistake. Although Sikong Beichen had spoken calmly, it was not any less stern. Lu Zhou said, "It's part of a soldier's life to win and lose. It's good that the young are competitive since this will help them improve. However, you shouldn't be blinded by your desire to win." Sikong Beichen nodded. "Well? Aren't you going to thank Brother Lu?" "Thank you, old senior, for your magnanimity. I'm ashamed of myself." Zhang Shaoqing felt thoroughly embarrassed. He trembled slightly from the overwhelming emotion as he descended. Yu Shangrong's gaze remained indifferent. He looked at the sky as he said, "There are 4 levels of the sword path. The commoner's sword can be used by anyone. The Lord's sword is branded by bravery. The Son of Heaven's sword rectifies the vassals and makes the land submit. The final level, the sword of creation, is a swordless path. Although your sword strike was powerful, you underestimated your opponent. If I'm not mistaken, you must not have experienced many life or death situations." Without waiting for Zhang Shaoqing's reply, he continued to say, "Your sword strikes lack the understanding of life and death. It lacks killing intent. Only the elites who lived on the sword's edge would understand the gravity of each sword strike." Upon hearing these words, realization dawned on Zhang Shaoqing. He cupped his fists together at Yu Shangrong and said, "I'm enlightened." Indeed, he did not have much experience with life or death situations. As the current first seed of the ninth temple, he was only in charge of the mystery hall after all. He rarely went out. Yu Shangrong said no more. Meanwhile, Sikong Beichen found the explanation interesting. He said, "This is my first time hearing that the sword is divided into 4 levels. Young man, what level is your sword path?" Yu Shangrong replied, "My sword path is only at the 2nd level. I like competitions and bravery. I'm shackled by myself. I'm afraid I won't be able to have a breakthrough." Lu Zhou looked at Yu Shangrong with no changes in his expression. He was as steady as an old dog as he thought to himself, "I came up with that spontaneously. It seems like I have no choice but to go along with it." Sikong Beichen nodded as he asked, "Your sword path is superior to Zhang Xiaoqing's, but it's only at the 2nd level?" Yu Shangrong nodded. "There's no end to the path of the sword." At this moment, the sun was setting, and the night breeze began to stir. The Peace Hall's first seat, Yao Qingchuan, bowed and said, "Temple Master, I'll prepare the Taoist veins and tidy up." "No." Sikong Beichen raised a hand. "Temple Master?" Sikong Beichen pushed away from the ground and rose into the air as though he was light as a willow. Then, a lotus with 10 leaves bloomed as an avatar appeared before disappearing again. The beasts in the sky were in a frenzy as though they had just seen a delicious meal. All of them charged forward. The members of Ninth Temple were not worried about Sikong Beichen's safety at all. After all, their temple master had intentionally attracted the beasts' attention. Nevertheless, the beasts' number had exceeded their expectations. There were so many of them that it seemed like they had covered the sky. To the beasts, a 10-leaf cultivator was even more delicious than a 9-leaf cultivator. Sikong Beichen was undoubtedly an attractive and mouth-watering prey. When the beasts were almost upon Sikong Beichen, he raised 2 fingers. An energy sword materialized between his fingers as he swung his arm. In just a blink of an eye, countless energy swords descended like snow and pierced the beasts' bodies. The speed at which they fell was neither fast nor slow. Lu Zhou suddenly felt that Sikong Beichen's energy swords had been intentionally slowed down. The speed at which the beasts flew and the timing of the sword's descent seemed rehearsed due to the precision of the swords. The others were shocked by this sight. Even Yu Shangrong could not help but exclaim, "Is this the sword path of a 10-leaf cultivator?" Sikong Beichen asked, "In your opinion, what level is my sword path?" Yu Shangrong was not stingy with his praise as he said, "The Son of Heaven's sword." There were not many in the world who could earn Yu Shangrong's praise. Sikong Beichen condensed the primal chi in his surroundings into energy without any weapons, but with his 2 fingers. This feat alone was enough to make the world submit. He raised his right and said in confusion, "Shouldn't it be the sword of creation?" Sikong Beichen was the temple master of the 9th temple, after all. He had always been praised as peerless. It was only natural that he expected his sword path to be at the highest level. How could he not be confused when Yu Shangrong said his sword path was only at the 3rd level? The wind blew harder now, and its roar grew louder as well. Nevertheless, it did not impede their conversation. Yu Shangrong smiled faintly. Everything can be used as a sword in the swordless path. Even one's finger can be used. It was difficult enough to form energy swords without a weapon. If one was not allowed to use anything at all, it would be even more difficult. Sikong Beichen nodded. He found this reasonable. The path of cultivation begins by channeling primal chi into one's body and condensing energy from it. Primal chi is also a thing. In that case, nobody in the world can reach the swordless path. Brother Lu. When Sikong Beichen shifted his eyes to Lu Zhou, he saw Lu Zhou staring ahead at an empty space with a sparkle in his eyes. The 5 first seats, Xia Chengxiu and Tian Buji, followed Sikong Beichen's gaze and looked at Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou was no longer stroking his beard. One of his hands was on his back while the other hand was before himself. He seemed to have frozen over. "Master?" Little Yuan noticed that something was amiss, so she approached her master and tugged at his robe lightly. However, Lu Zhou did not respond to little Yuan. It had to be said that little Yuan was the only one who was bold enough to tug on Lu Zhou's robe. She stood in front of him and jumped a little since she was shorter as she called out, "Master?" The beasts in the skies were cawing. Yao Qingchuan said again, "I'll go and activate the Taoist veins." Sikong Beichen looked at the beasts in the air with a fierce gaze as he nodded. After that, he slowly descended. "Brother Lu?" Sikong Beichen nodded slightly. "Ding. You've comprehended a new sword path, calm disturbance."